Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our weekly virtual Zoom worship service at the UU Church of the Palouse. We preface our service by acknowledging that the land on which our homes and our church were built was not uninhabited when European settlers arrived here with their ideas of conquest and ownership. For those of us who live in Moscow, Pullman, or other nearby communities, we live on the ancestral homelands of the Nimipu, called Nez Perce by the French-speaking traders, the Palouse, and the Shitshumsh, called the Coeur d'Alene. If you are joining us from another place, I encourage you to discover who inhabited or moved through the place where you now live in the times before colonization and genocide. We pause and remember that we live on ground that is sacred, ground that was stolen, ground that cries out for justice and for responsible stewardship. May our remembering help us find the courage to do our part to restore wholeness to the earth and all her peoples. And now let's join our voices together for our words of welcome, unison chalice lighting, and sung affirmation. Please say these words aloud with me. Whoever you are, wherever you've come from, whatever your beliefs, whomever you love, and however bumpy your life's journey, know that you are welcome here. We're hoping that everyone has a chalice or a candle to light and something to light it with. Let's light them together now.
Hello, I'm Ginger Yoder and I am going to light our chalice this morning. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung in every land by every tongue.
Good morning again. And I want to share a special welcome to William Hopkins. William is the executive director of New Hampshire Peace Action. He's been there for 12 years. He's a veteran of the Iraq War, and he's also my little brother, although he's 6'7", so little is a bit of a misnomer. William spent, as I mentioned, some time in Iraq, and he's both an incredible resource for me in terms of understanding war, peace, and the true cost of the military-industrial complex. So he's an incredible resource, and also the reason I care so deeply. I spent the time when he was in Iraq walking around with a rock in the pit of my stomach, and I know that there are others of you here who are familiar with that particular rock. We were lucky that William came home physically safe, but and not everybody does. However, you don't come home whole, and so this is why I care so much, and why we celebrate Veterans Day and Memorial Day. Although celebrate might be a bit of a misnomer. A little history about Memorial Day. It's only been an official federal holiday since 1971, but the practice of laying flowers on the graves of war dead goes back hundreds, if not thousands, of years. Here in the U.S., the observance dates back to the aftermath of the Civil War. In 1865, a group of former slaves in Charleston, South Carolina, chose May 1st as a day to honor 257 Union soldiers who had died in a Confederate prison camp and been buried in a mass grave. They exhumed and reburied the bodies and then held a parade which 10,000 Black people attended, putting children at the head of the procession. This is one of several origin stories for the holidays, but for me it's especially poignant. 3 years after that, on May 5th, 1868, Major General John Logan, the head of an organization of Union veterans, the Grand Army of the Republic, established Decoration Day, later renamed as Memorial Day, as a time for the nation to decorate the graves of the war dead with flowers. He chose May 30th as the date because it was a rare day when there wasn't that wasn't the anniversary of a Civil War battle. Also, there are flowers blooming pretty much everywhere in the country. So, the connection between Memorial Day and the battle to save the soul of this country from the corruption of white supremacy runs deep and long. And as if that weren't enough, we're also coming up on the 100th anniversary of the Tulsa Race Massacre. Those of you who were with us for our Juneteenth service might remember the Tulsa Race Massacre was when a rumor that a black man had been rude to a white woman triggered an attack, and that attack leveled more than 35 square blocks of what was at that time the wealthiest black community in the United States, Black Wall Street. More than 800 people were admitted to hospitals. As many as 6,000 Black people were imprisoned without cause, many of them for several days. And estimates of the number of people killed run as high as 300. Now, I'm starting there because I want to be clear. The service today isn't going to glorify or pretty up the true nature of war, nor are we going to shy away from pointing out the connections between the military-industrial complex and the sickness of white supremacy. I know it's hard to face these kinds of truths, but we can do hard things. Just remember to breathe. Take care of yourself if you feel you're having a trauma response. But if you can, try to circle back, because I believe we owe it to those who lay down their lives in our name to notice and to pay attention and to reckon with the true cost of war. Let's begin, though, by singing together, Building a New Way. These are the names of the armed service members who fought and died in Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Iraqi Freedom, and Operation New Dawn in the past year. Army Specialist Nick Bravo Regulus. Army Specialist Vincent Sebastian Ibarria. Army First Lieutenant Joseph Trent Alba. Army Sergeant Brian Cooper Mount. Marine Corps Sergeant Trevor Golden. Navy Information Systems Technician 2nd Class Ian McKnight. Air Force Senior Airman Jason Kai Fan. Air Force Staff Sergeant Ronald J. Willett. Army Captain Seth Vernon Van Camp. Army Sergeant Jeremy Kane Sherman. Army Staff Sergeant Kyle Robert McKee. Army Chief Warrant Officer 2 Marwan Sama Gabor. Army Chief Warrant Officer 3 Dallas Gerald Garza. Air Force Captain Kellyanne Laley. Army Staff Sergeant Anthony Bermudez. Army Staff Sergeant Timothy Luke Manchester. Army Staff Sergeant Christopher Pantos. We remember as well the approximately 6,500 veterans who died by suicide this year, as tracked by the Department of Veterans Affairs. And on the one-year anniversary of the death of George Floyd, we'd be remiss not to also lift up the fact that at least 32 Black people have been killed by U.S. law enforcement over this same period of time. Life, however fragile, is a gift. And we in this community of memory, caring, and hope cherish this gift today and all days. Amen, and blessed be. Our meditation this morning is a prayer for the world by my colleague, the Reverend Amy Petrie Shaw. You'll notice that there is a litany, a line that gets repeated. We lift up our hearts And I'd invite you, if you wish, to say those words with me. For all who die in war, we lift up our hearts. For all who live in suffering in the aftermath of violence, we lift up our hearts. For all who give their lives in smoke and flame, we lift up our hearts. For all who go on in honor of the dead, we lift up our hearts. For all who have served, we lift up our hearts. For our country and our world, we lift up our hearts. For a planet that will find peace, we lift up our hearts. For the young and the innocent, we lift up our hearts. For the weary and the war-torn, we lift up our hearts. For those who would pray, we lift up our hearts. For those too angry to cry, we lift up our hearts. For all of us, for the many names of God, we lift up our hearts. We lift up our hearts. Shanti, Shalom, peace, Salam, Amen.
Good morning. I'm really happy to be able to address the spiritual community that lives around my sister today. To talk about a set of issues that are pretty intricately woven into my work at New Hampshire Peace Action. And those issues are where we have this culture around veteran worship and patriotism and nationalism and American exceptionalism, and how we navigate that in a moral and ethical way in order not to generate more war. So I believe that war is never fought for freedom and democracy by any nation, and that it is in essence a practice of pitting poor and powerless people against each other to increase wealth held by the wealthy and powerful people who get to determine what those militaries do. As Elizabeth shared earlier, as a young man, I joined the New Hampshire National Guard. It was a mountain infantry unit. And I thought I would have the opportunity to protect my country and my family and build my resume, that it would help pay for college, that I'd learn discipline and get in shape, make a little extra money. And I understood that I would get to spend my weekends training, and that training would include hiking and ice climbing and rock climbing and skiing and snowshoeing and rappelling. My imaginings of what those 6 years would hold didn't include the likelihood of actually fighting in a ground war. I joined my National Guard unit in early spring of 2001, and that unit had never been deployed. And from New Hampshire, only a handful of people had been deployed over the last several decades. But I wound up spending most of my 23rd and the first half of my 24th year of life, that was in 2004 and 2005, in a combat role in some of the most violent parts of Iraq during one of the most violent periods in our occupation. And I don't know how many times rockets hit nearby or how many times improvised explosives went out on the convoys I was escorting, but it was a lot. It was enough that I lost count. Every time that I fired my weapon in combat, it was at night, and at a distance that in the dark I couldn't know for sure if the rounds that I fired struck people. So 16 years later, I still wonder if when Iraqis lay flowers at the graves for those who died defending their country and family, some are laid because of me, because I knew that I was a foreign invader in their land, in a war that I knew was not related to the security of people in the US, but rather the trade of oil and the importance of American power in an oil-rich region. I understood all of that when I did the things that I did. We were the only company in our brigade that didn't suffer any fatalities. Yet over the years, I have found myself going to funerals and reading obituaries on the company Facebook page And I always know why the cause of death is not mentioned in those obituaries. And, Elizabeth talked about the 6,500 veteran suicides this year. We all know that there is an extremely high rate of veteran suicides. And while some of that may stem from the simple knowledge and training in the intentional arms, my sense from my lived experience is that there's something deeper at play in those numbers. The term moral injury was coined by Jonathan Shea in the 1990s, and he used it specifically to describe American soldiers who experienced feelings of guilt and shame around the things that they felt were unethical, that they were a party to or had been asked to do or ordered to do by their superiors. So I did my job while I was in Iraq, and when I came home, I had to think about and consider what I'd been a part of. And I felt a sickness in my heart, a hollowness. And as I thought of all of the hungry children, the traumatized families, and I had to wonder if any of those rounds that I fired into the night at muzzle flash hit their target. And I came to understand myself as a perpetrator of that trauma and that violence. And at times it felt like something that was too great to make up for in a lifetime. So that feeling of hollowness led to a feeling of irredeemability, that I was, that the impact I had was larger than any one person could make up for. Oh, our parents, Elizabeth's and mine, raised us UU, and as such, core value is to respect the inherent worth and dignity of all people. And I knew that the worth and dignity and the lives of real people had been destroyed, and I understood my part in it. Early on, I became pretty depressed. It wasn't because I was experiencing PTSD, and I may have been, but it wasn't the trauma that haunted me. I think I was experiencing that moral injury. Our political system allows only those who raise large amounts of money to be seriously considered for federal political office. Once elected, representatives and senators know that the expectation is that they will bring jobs home. And the easiest way to get bipartisan buy-in for those jobs is to make sure that those are Pentagon re-election funds from grateful contractors. And we all pay our taxes and contribute to this society, and we all know that we're paying for the weapons that have starved 500,000 Yemeni children to death in the midst of the worst cholera epidemic in modern history. We know that the perpetual war in the Middle East is being waged in our names and with our funds. We know that over the last month, 67 Palestinian children died due to Israeli military action using, in part, American weapons and the over $3 billion in military aid we give Israel every year. And continue to spend more and more of our federal budget on weapons, thanks to a system that my friend Arnie calls military Keynesianism. Our communities grow more and more dependent on these jobs. And the violence all over the world that those weapons do, that some of us try to pretend is maybe merited or necessary for our protection, and some of us just try to ignore it. But I find myself wondering if a lot more people than we would think experience moral injury just because we know the truth and we participate in this system and understand our part in it. And that extends beyond warfare to the way we value Black and brown lives in our own country, and the epidemic of police violence against people of color around the country, and that we all know that we're part of upholding that system. So I wanted today to talk to you about how we take the time and create the space to remember those who've fallen. We're going to show reverence because those people, no matter what they were fighting in, most of them went in with an intent to do good, to be protecting their families, like I did, to want to be the good guys, as Ryan so beautifully put it earlier. And We need to know that as we show that reference, we're also putting energy into a vision of a future beyond war. So in the same breath we use to revere the dead, we have to criticize the wars and the leaders and the system whose mismanagement has led us into those wars. We need to always be wary of a hollow patriotism that says that veterans, whether they made it home alive or not, are heroes, because that teaches that our children that war is good and noble and right and just. And if they fight in an American war, they too will be a hero. That our flag and that our government are infallibly good. If we're not taking the time to actively criticize the system that led to the fallen veterans we are remembering, we're perpetuating the cycle of young people believing that by joining the US military, they will be part of bringing freedom and democracy to the world. That's not what the military is or does. The military is trained and equipped to kill and destroy. The US military brings death and destruction to a large swath of the world. Martin Luther King called it the largest purveyor of violence on earth. And it represents the same interests that guide our politicians, which are mainly those that fund re-election campaigns. So making sure to temper every patriotic lionization of service members with truth about what American foreign policy is and how racism and American exceptionalism and nationalism play into that. We need to be underscoring that. Otherwise, we're setting up our young people to be remembered on this day or to live with the moral injury of being forced to do harm. When I'm thanked for my service, I cringe. It hurts me that people think I ought to be thanked for this harm that I did, that I carry with me, that I know didn't make anybody here any safer or any freer. So I'm inviting you all tomorrow as we mark Memorial Day to think not only of the soldiers who gave their lives, but of the system that put them in a position to lose those lives. And think about how this honoring might leave young people believing that that sacrifice was necessary and right and just and noble, instead of what it was, cruel and wasteful. And then do your part to end this system. Fight for green job creation, fight for campaign finance reform, fight for peace, so that one day there will be no dead to mourn. As I speak from the ancestral land of the Abenaki, Wabanaki, and Pennacook peoples, as the bombs that we pay for rain down on brown children in the Middle East, and the police our taxes pay for kill unarmed Black and brown people, it seems like every week, I can still imagine a country worthy of the patriotism that Americans display. It's so different from the nation we live in now. The great African-American poet and writer Langston Hughes spoke of that America in his poem, Let America Be America Again, which is a little long, but I'd like to share it with you. Let America be America again. Let it be the dream it used to be. Let it be the pioneer on the plain, seeking a home where he himself is free. America was never America. Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love, where never kings connive nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above. It was never America to me. Oh, let my land be a land where liberty is crowned with no false patriotic wreath, but opportunity is real and life is free. Equality is in the air we breathe. There's never been equality for me, nor freedom in this homeland of the free. Say, who are you that mumbles in the dark? And who are you that draws your veil across the stars? I am the poor white fooled and pushed apart. I am the Negro bearing slavery's scars. I am the red man driven from the land. I am the immigrant clutching the hope I seek and find the same old stupid plan of dog eat dog, of mighty crush the weak. I am the young man full of strength and hope, tangled in that ancient endless chain of profit, power, gain, of grab the land, of grab the gold, of grab the ways of satisfying need, of work the men, of take the pay, of owning everything for one's own greed. I am the farmer, bondsman to the soil. I am the worker, sold to the machine. I am the Negro servant to you all. I am the people, humble, hungry, mean. Hungry, yet despite the dream, beaten yet today. O pioneers, I am the man who never got ahead, the poorest worker, bartered through the years. Yet I'm the one who dreamed our basic dream. In the world, while still a serf of kings, who dreamed a dream so strong, so brave, so true, that even yet its mighty daring sings, in every brick and stone, in every furrow turned, that's made America the land it has become. Oh, I'm the man who sailed these early seas in search of what I meant to be my home. For I'm the one who left dark Ireland's shore, and Poland's plain, and England's grassy lay. And torn from black Africa's strand, I came to build a homeland of the free. The free? Who said the free? Not me. Surely not me. The millions on relief today? The millions shot down when we strike? The millions who have nothing for our pay? For all the dreams we've dreamed, for all the songs we've sung, and all the hopes we've held, and all the flags we've hung? The millions who have nothing for our pay except, oh, let America be America again. The land never has yet been, and yet must be, the land where every man is free. The land that's mine, the poor man's, Indians, Negroes. Who made America? Whose sweat and blood, whose faith and pain, whose hand at the foundry, whose plow in the rain, must bring back our mighty dream again. Sure, call me any ugly name you choose. The steel of freedom does not stain. For those who live like leeches on people's lives, we must take back our land again, America. Oh yes, I say it plain. America was never America to me. And yet, I swear this oath, America will be, out of the rack and ruin of our gangsters' death, the rape and rot of graft and stealth and lies, we, the people, must redeem the land, the mines, the plants, the rivers, the mountains, and the endless plain. All the stretch of these great green states. I believe that we have to question hollow displays of patriotism that shield our foreign and our domestic policy from criticism, if we're to realize a future free of war and racism. If we're to make the America that Langston Hughes dreams of, we have to be able to question American exceptionalism. We have to be able to question the voices that say that America is always a force for good in the world, and that those who die fighting in her wars are heroes. So as you move through your day tomorrow, I ask you to remember those whose lives were lost fighting for this country, and then redevote yourself to building a country that's worthy of their sacrifice. Thank you all for welcoming me to this this place that usually my sister would have. It's been a joy. I'm going to turn it back over. Thank you.
And thank you, William. Thank you. I love you.
I love you too.
All right, let's sing together now. Comfort me.
Comfort me, comfort me, comfort me, oh my
I'd like to close with an oldie, but a goodie, a traditional prayer, the prayer of St. Francis. God, make me an instrument of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there is injury, pardon. Where there is doubt, faith. Where there is despair, hope. Where there is darkness, where there is sadness, joy. O God, grant that I may not so much seek to be consoled as to console, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love. For it is in giving that we receive, it is in pardoning that we are pardoned, and it is in dying that we are born to eternal life. Amen. Let's join now in our sung benediction, There is a Love. I invite you now to extinguish your chalice or your candle and to say with me our words to embody the flame. We extinguish this chalice that it might glow gently in our hearts. May it light our paths as we leave this place, and may it guide our way until we are together again. It has been such a joy and a pleasure to share one of the humans I have loved the most for the longest with this community that I adore. William, thank you for being with us today, um, and for sharing all that you know. Uh, and thank you all. There we go. Love for William. And love for all of you. You know, it's not easy to face the hard truths, and it's not easy to navigate these complicated kinds of subjects. Um, I don't always know the right thing to do or the right thing to say, but I know the right people to be figuring it out with, and that is all of you. So, with, as always, profound gratitude for the privilege of serving you, of being part of this community, I invite you to go in peace,